If there's one thing clear about Splatoon 3 at the moment, it's the weapons that define the metagame. The Splash-O-Matic and Sloshing Machine currently have the game in a chokehold, with the best team comp right now being 2 of each, or 3 of either and 1 of the other. Although Splash and Machine are by far the best weapons in the game right now to play competitively, when it comes to rank modes, a much wider weapon pool becomes viable. Solo queue obviously has much less team play involved in tournament games and scrims, and with the focus being more on the individual plays, this opens up for so many more weapons to be played, rather than just Splash and Machine. And today, I want to talk about some of the best weapons in Splatoon 3 ranked that I feel are quite underrated right now. Now, if I didn't mention this weapon, then something would have been a bit wrong. My first for this list is the 52 Gal. I think this weapon is massively underrated, not even for just ranked, but maybe in competitive too, as the main weapon and kit combined create the strongest Slayer in the game. As the name suggests, the Gal does 52 damage per pellet, giving it one of the fastest kill times in the game and the fastest kill time for any shooter as well. As well as the weapon itself, the 52 comes with the splash wall for its sub, which makes it even better at fighting. With this, you can take the weapon to the next level in terms of aggression, as you can push up really far without getting punished and isolates all of the fights, which gives you better odds of winning them too. Not to mention, your wall can actually get you out of some really prickly situations too. For example, if you accidentally push up a bit too far, or if the enemy rushes you unexpectedly. So that's another positive to the sub. As well as having the splash wall, the 52 gets the Killer Whale 5.1 as its special. This special doesn't massively change the way you play the weapon like the wall does, but it's still really nice to have, especially in ranked, as you can use it to target a singular player from afar, then swim up to them whilst they're distracted and take them out, which only adds to the weapon's arsenal of fighting power. Overall, if you have good aim and like to play aggressively, the 52 would be a great choice for ranked, as it allows a skilled player to take lots and lots of fights and make loads of individual plays. I mean, just look at the player Twig, who from my knowledge has pretty much only used the 52 in ranked and has achieved an X rank power of over 3,200, the highest power outside of Japan so far. If anything, this shows people have been really sleeping on the 52. Another shooter that I want to give a little honourable mention to is the NZAP. Now, we all know that the Tactical was a special that was actually quite overrated at the game's launch, but I think nowadays it's actually looked at in the opposite view and is now a little bit underrated. The benefits you can get from Tactical really aren't anything to snuff at, and in ranked games, using the Tactical more aggressively or just for yourself isn't even that bad, as you can turn yourself into a Slayer if your team is lacking a bit in that area. What I think people really forget about is just how well-rounded as a weapon the NZAP actually is. In competitive play, you normally use weapons that are really good at doing a couple of specific things, but as you don't have the luxury in rank to build a team comp or even know who your teammates are going to be, the NZAP is a really great weapon to use as it can pick up the slack in nearly any team comp. If you need to stay back and paint for your team, the NZAP can do that in ranked. If you need to be a bit more aggro, the NZAP can also do that in ranked. It has really good mobility, good painting, and a decently quick kill time. So I would give this weapon a shot honestly. Now let's talk about some weapons with a little bit more range. I know I wanted to include some dualies, and as good as the Tetra dualies are, they definitely aren't underrated as I see them all the time in both ranked and comp. So this left me deciding between the vanilla dualies and the dualie squatches. Come on guys, we know that Glugglers had no chance. Anyways, although I do actually think the regular dualies are a very good weapon, I have to give it to the dualie squatches as I see them so little and genuinely think they could be at least top 10 weapons in the game, maybe even at a push top 5. Firstly, the main weapon itself is incredibly strong and has everything you could want on a mid-range shooter. It shoots pretty quick, and combining squid roll and 2 dodge rolls, it theoretically has absolutely insane range whilst allowing it to avoid enemy fire, bombs and anything else the opponent wants to throw at you. Then comes the kit. The dualie squatches have Splat Bomb and Wave Breaker, which right now is a very strong kit for all situations in the game. Having a Splat Bomb benefits nearly every single weapon in the entire game, as you can use it to flash out an area or get the extra bit of splash damage on your opponent before or after engaging. The Wave Breaker is a very similar story, as it's a special you can't really go wrong with at the minute. You can put it down to push an objective, you can put it on tower, you can use it defensively whilst getting pushed, all to gain an advantage in terms of chip damage and getting the locations of your enemy. Combining this great kit with the power of the main weapon just creates an overall great shooter with very few weaknesses. I'm honestly surprised I don't see it more in both solo queue and tournaments. However, talking of weaknesses, it does have a few flaws to be mindful of. Firstly, this weapon is very ink hungry if you include the dodge rolls. If you're not careful, you can get taken out in the open because you have no ink and can't shoot anywhere, so just be mindful of that. Secondly, this weapon is also just quite difficult. Shooting whilst rolling can be hard enough on normal dualies, so when you add more range to that, you can see why this weapon's skill ceiling is so high. However, if you can learn to master this weapon and make sure you're aware of its flaws, it's absolutely amazing and won't let you down. I'm not going to cover it in depth, but the Squeezer is also in a very similar position, where its main weapon is absolutely amazing and has a pretty good kit. This is also really hard to play. Honestly, these weapons could be completely interchangeable, but I decided to put the dualies here instead of the Squeezer because the Squeezer is arguably even harder, and if you aren't 100% confident with it, you'll actually be a liability for your team rather than an asset. And finally, we get to the backline weapons. In case you've been living under a rock, you have probably experienced the problem with ranked at the minute, which is that every team seems to have 2 or more backlines on. So this pretty much means the role is definitely not an underrated role, as we see so many of them in ranked. But one thing I really don't see is the Explosher. The Explosher is a pretty slow-paced weapon in Splatoon 3, but damn is it effective. At first, it can be hard to see why, because the kit is quite mediocre, being Point Sensor, which isn't bad for the weapon but nothing groundbreaking, and Ink Storm, which is pretty nice but again is not incredible. What is good though, is the main weapon itself. The amount of paint this weapon can put down in burst is unmatched in this game, which makes it a really solid pick on splat zones. No joke, if you use this on a map like Brindwater Springs, sometimes you can hold the zone all on your own in the right scenario. It's not just the Explosher's painting that's really good. It's a splash damage that can be really strong too. Explosher might be one of the best, if not the best weapon at flashing people out of cover. This is because you can arc your shots in a curve that can essentially hit behind walls. This is why the Point Sensor isn't actually that bad as a sub for this weapon, as you can locate someone behind a wall and then just start shooting them behind it. Now of course this weapon is very slow, so one flaw it does have is if you get rushed, you're kind of screwed. This means you have to play very defensively with this weapon, and also make sure you're watching all your flanks all the time, as someone can sneak up on you at any moment. If you keep mindful of that though, and also learn how to fight just a little bit, you can actually defend yourself quite well, as if you're backing up while shooting, all it takes is one good shot and then a little indirect to kill someone. Like I said, if you want to see the full potential of this weapon, go and watch Brian because he's pretty crazy. Thanks so much for watching everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm pretty close to 600 subs now, and that would be really cool if we could get there. But anyway, hope you all have a good day. Thank you, and peace.